Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are watching this webinar. And thank you for taking time. My name is Tomáš Nedvorský. I am Senior Technical Specialist in Autodesk, responsible for architecture, engineering, and construction in Eastern Europe, based in Prague. And the goal of this webinar is to introduce you BIM 360 design. Which is one of the module within BIM 360 family. And this cloud services is for real-time Revit work sharing really in cloud. And let's have a look how it looks. So you already know from previous slides that we have architecture of our solution BIM 360 as follows. So we have project data, which is BIM 360 docs. Then we have BIM 360 design, which is the topic for this webinar for real-time collaboration in cloud. Then we have coordinate for clash detection and coordination in cloud. And last but not least, we have solution for construction companies called BIM 360 Build. And as I mentioned, the goal is to talk about BIM 360 design. And before really going into deep of the functionality, I want to just quickly give you update what was the evolution. So evolution of Revit collaboration started back in 2002 when we had really work sharing limited to local area network. Then we in 2011 we came this Revit server as a part of Revit, for which is dedicated for multi-office usage, but within firewall. But of course, need to say that you need a server, you need to install everything, you need operating system, and so on and so forth. So it's related not with directly cost on Revit side, but with indirect cost on IT side. Then in 2015, we came up with Revit Cloud Work Sharing, which we called Collaboration for Revit, and connected with the 360 team. But based on feedback from our customers, they found that BIM 360 team is not really sufficient for work sharing as far as permission level is controlled and other functionality. So we decided to move, and in 2018, we came with BIM 360, which is really next generation of cloud collaboration based on new generation of BIM 360. So let's have a look what BIM 360 design can do for you and how you can use it. So if you look to the architecture BIM 360 design, so it has three elements. One is document management module. Basically, it contains automatically BIM 360 docs functionality as a repository, and also as a tool or functionality which is related to this repository. Then there is Revit Cloud Work Sharing. Basically, what you can do directly from Revit to store the data in cloud, which is related to the user. And then we have a design collaboration module, which is, let's say, another layer of the control, enabling people to really control the sharing and consuming the data which are in the cloud between the teams. And of course, I will introduce it to you. So during my presentation, I will focus on these three things. Accessibility, because I'm usually asked for this, so this is why I'm really focusing on this. And accessibility means that people are asking me, okay, how is accessible? Then how I can access it from home, from laptop, from desktop, how, what, and so on and so forth. How the communication is done, how the communication with other stakeholders is done, but not only other stakeholders, but also between the designing teams. So I will introduce this one as well. And last but not least, again, security and then control. So maybe I would say people asking me, can I trust to this solution? And of course, I will cover this as well. So if you look to accessibility, it's really based on a unique collaboration platform with 360 docs, I will not go through all this functionality again, but you should really remember that all BIM necessity, those functionality, which was already introduced, is part of this solution. So you can create your folder structure. System is automatically making versioning for you, making visualization. All embedded data are available, unlimited storage, more than 60 file formats, approval process, and so on and so forth. So let's have a look how you can start. So of course, it's cloud solution. First, you can sign in, and then you can start to work on the project. So you will establish, you will activate the project, and then you will activate the services. And after activating the services, you can start to add members. So of course, here these are pictures users, but in your case, it will be email addresses of your coworkers. And what you can also define is from which company they are, because this can be next in the future used for the permissions, but also what is the role. And as soon as you are defining the role, with the role, there is also a default access permission. So you can see automatically that system is giving you the access permissions to different modules, vertical modules of Windows 360. But of course, at any time, administrator can override and can define different permissions. And also what I should say that you can define your own roles in your language. So it doesn't have to be in English. It can be really based on your needs. And then as you are used to that, you can either create your folder structure, or of course it can be copied from some previous project as a default folder structure. But what is important with BIM 360 design is that you are working with teams. Basically, the team is a group of people working in one project, of course, but working in the same field. Like architecture, architects will be one group, MEP engineers will be another group, here as an example, and structural engineers will be one group. But of course, you can create as many teams as you wish. But this is really important for BIM 360 design, that you are defining the teams, and you can see that you are also defining in which folders the people will be working. And what you can also do, you can of course add members, and you can see that automatically, because my colleague Andrei is admin, so he inherited automatically full permission level. But now you can enter either user or role or even company, and you can define the permission level. So basically, as an admin, you can define this, and you will see later on it's important because some people can view and edit. So I would say it is standard Revit user, but there can be somebody, maybe some more senior guy who can share it, who can share the data with other teams. So basically it can be one or more architects who is really who has permission to define that, okay, this model can be shared with other people. And of course, the same you can do for mechanical engineers, HVAC, or I don't know, heating system, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, for structural engineers. You can also, I will be talking a little bit through, you can define, for example, sharing, so that the publishing, schedule publishing, so that each maybe Saturday afternoon, all models will be published for other users. So you have much more functionality behind, but let's go ahead and look what other we can do for you. So as BIM 360 design is really work sharing in real time, and maybe you are used for your central model in your on your servers. So it works very same way we can connect these teams with really central access in cloud, but really having work sets and everything which you are used to, but based in cloud. So how it works? So in cloud, let's imagine that you have central model. And of course, the central model, maybe two teams sitting in very different cities in two different countries, they have the access. And these are the guys who are working as, for example, architects. So, and architects, they are working on the central model with work sets. And then they are also versioning as soon as they will define that, okay, this model will be stored in cloud. So each of the team member can save a file in cloud, and they are making versions in cloud. But at one point of time, they can make a decision that they want to share this model with other stakeholders, maybe MEP engineer, maybe supervisor, or even investor. So then they are doing a revision, and this revision is, again, stored in cloud, obviously, but it will become automatically accessible based on permissions rights, definitely, by other stakeholders. Basically, if they have permission, they can start to view it, they can start to work on it, and they can use just a basic BIM system docs functionality, and they can review it, they can make issue markups, and so on and so forth. So let's have a look how it can work. So as soon as somebody is invited to the model, so he will get an automatically email notification, and he can go to the project. And of course, with his credentials, he will log in. So let's imagine this is architect number one. So maybe I will move a little bit my picture, because you see that this is architect number one. And of course, he can go to document management, and he can see all information available. And he has access only to model, to folder structure, which is available for architects. And let's imagine that he receive maybe terrain model. Here it's an information about cadastral parcels. So he can go, and here at this point he is using standard from within AutoCAD standard BIM CN60 docs functionality, which is desktop connector, and saving a DWG file in logical drive for BIM CN60. Basically, he went to the project where he has access to. So he is publishing this into the cloud. And then he is happy, and he can go to Revit. Of course, he will start his drawing, or better said, model from some template. And then he can start to work with this. So he will save it, let's say, on desktop or in some folder, doesn't matter here where. So he will save it locally. But then he said that he wants to collaborate, so he can say that he doesn't want to save it on your LAN, but he wants to go to the cloud. And now just having access to maybe several projects, so he has to define which projects he wants to work with, and he will save it in folder dedicated for architects, and he will initiate the collaboration. So this is the way how central model is stored in cloud. No need for any setup. So as simple as that, a couple of clicks, and you have all the data in cloud. And of course, then he can link DWG file. And because he's linking it through desktop connector from BIM CN60 docs, basically from cloud, then of course the integrity is defined, because everybody will be able to see the same stuff as soon as he's going to the cloud, because everything is stored in cloud. And let's imagine that architect made his job. So he created his part, so he created the levels, slabs, and so on and so forth. And he also created some sheets, sections, maybe axonometric views. Basically, he is doing his job, so we just jump a little bit ahead because I am not going to present standard Revit functionality. And even maybe some schedule, some bill of materials. And then he can go and he can collaborate, and he will hit publish settings. So basically, he can define what will be published to the cloud, because you can imagine that he can have many views, many sections, but only some of them should be visible for the rest of the people. So he's defining what we call publishing sets, and this is redefining what will be visible in cloud. So he's going to save it, and then he will synchronize his central model. But of course, remember, it's already stored in cloud, and he can add the comment, and deal done, everything is saved. And it's saving, and he can also publish it. So basically make it available for the rest of the team. And just you can have a look what is available on the cloud. So 3D views, 2D sheets, as defined on during the publishing method. Yep. So it's available, it's in cloud, and you can view it, and of course you can zoom and so on and so forth. You can create, you can start to do markups, issues, etc. So let's imagine that there is architect number 2. So you can see it's architect number 2. So, and there are already work sets. So you can see that core walls and floors are owned by user 1, and the goal of user 2 is to create partition walls. So this is his job, and he is going to do this. So of course, after some period of time, he will create these partitions walls because this is his ownership, and done, created as many as possible, of course, with all information, with all details. But you can see that you can also see the ownership of the work sets, because it's very similar like working with a central file on your LAN, but now, as I mentioned, it's in cloud. And of course, similar way, you know, so ownership of these walls is defined. Core wall is this part, so it's by user 1, and user 2 has this partition walls. So, and as soon as the user 2, basically architect number 2, will start to add, for example, doors, so he can do it, but of course, based on the ownership. And you can see it here, because he's trying to add the door into the wall which he is not owning, so he can place the request. Similar way as you are used to. So he can place the request, and he can ask the user number 1, which is architect number 1, for ownership for this wall that he can place. Yeah, he can place these doors. And of course, architect number 1, you can see it here, architect number 1 will receive the request for releasing this or for editing, basically. So he can go and he can grant the access for this particular wall. Yeah. So of course you see all the details, and he can grant or deny whatever he wants. But at this point, let's imagine he's granting this. And again, he will synchronize with central. You can add the comment, maybe, okay, I granted access to requested wall, blah, blah, blah. And so basically the very basic way of the communication with other user. Published. And now, of course, user number 2, which is architect number 2, will receive the information that he can start to edit it, and of course he can place the doors into this wall. But please remember, just one wall was he received the possibility to add information. I mean, from the set of architect number 1, obviously. So he can start to add more and more doors. But let's imagine that he wants to add the door to somewhere where still he doesn't have permission. So again, he can run into the same problem with this wall. But now I want to show you a different way how you can ask for permission, because of course you can proceed with the same procedure to ask for editing for this particular wall. But now what he wants to do is he wants to ask for the ownership for the entire set. So this is why he published the entire model, because then it will be visible in BIM 360 docs. And then he will use standard BIM 360 docs functionality, and basically he will place the issue, because he has the issue not with one wall only, but with all the walls. And of course, don't forget what he can do. He can assign the task to really user number 1, which is architect number 1. He can say the reason, he can put a description, and he can define also due date. So at the background, of course, system will create a notification email. User number 1, basically architect number 1, will receive this information emailed to his email box, and he can see this, he can view the issue, and of course he can react. So he can, of course, log in, and this can really speed up the entire process. And don't forget, this will be also visible for other users. So maybe for manager, that he is aware what's going on at the background, and manager doesn't need to have any Revit installed, and he will see also the communication of the users. So basically up to you how you want to deal with that. And then, of course, he can grant the access, he can reply, he can say, okay, this has been answered, so I did my job. Please just be careful with editing my walls. And yeah, so he will he say, okay, let's allow this guy to use and let's to use my walls, so to basically modify it. And he will synchronize with the central. And of course, architect number 2 will receive answer that everything has been done. So he has access granted, so he can go, he can view it, he can close it if he has permissions for this, or he will just leave it like that, whatever. So this is just communication in cloud. And of course, what is important that we keep the track of all information which are stored in cloud. So basically, it's trackable. And this is very important maybe for later. So, and then he will start to do his job. So he will move and he will put a lot of doors and so on and so forth. I will go just a little bit ahead, so because he can do much more stuff. And then after doing all this job, he will publish again this, or he will synchronize it with central, sorry. And then he will publish it to make it available also in the BIM 360 docs. Yeah. So he will publish it and deal done. Everything is stored in cloud, and people can view it. And of course, he can continue. He can add more things, as it's developing. So he can add more furniture. So you can see it here, so on and so forth. So whatever he wants to do, he can copy it. It's basically standard functionality of Revit. He can move his partition walls because maybe the office is not big enough, and etc., etc. Yeah. And then he will synchronize it again with central after some period of time. And he can publish it. So model published, and now let's move forward. And now you already saw it a little bit, but regarding communication, now other people can do design review, track the issues, they add markups and so on and so forth. So let's imagine that now I am admin, but let's imagine this comes supervisor. Basically, this is different guy who has no not idea how to use Revit. So, but what he can do, he can access the data in cloud. He can, of course, view the issues which has been already created. And because now at this point I am admin, so everything has been done, I can close it, which means it's inactive. It's still part of the system, and we can anytime track back what happened and when. And using full functionality of BIM assisted dogs, because this is what I'm using at this point, I can really use, for example, 3D comparison of models. So I can view at the same time 2D sheet and a 3D model. And of course, anytime I will pick any element, so I know where it is, either in 2D or from 2D within 3D. Both ways it's connected. So all the information are really interconnected because we are dealing with intelligent 3D BIM data. What I can also do, I can compare models. So here is the comparison of a 2D sheet where it's in fact overlay, it can be overlay of the model. But again, because these data are from intelligent model, I can see how many elements has been added, modified, or removed. And modification, again, it means either geometrical modifications that we moved the location, for example, or it can be metadata. So basically that I changed some properties or better attributes of the model. So, and you can see that, yeah, I have both because I'm comparing version 9 and 10, so I can see both versions at the same time, you know, and I can see highlighted stuff of what has been changed. Yeah, for example, these doors has been moved and can really walk through. And similarly, what I can do, I can have a look in 3D model. And I can compare at this point 3D model. So I will again select last and previous version, for example, but I can pick any versions to compare. And then I can see it in 3D. And you can see how model is intelligent. So basically what I can do, how I can compare. So I can see immediately in 3D, in the context of all other elements. So you can even see how it has been moved from where to where and so on and so forth. So all the information are available and can be worked with. So of course, and here is example, checking each and every element, you know, which has been moved. So you see how the doors has been moved from which location to which location. So very useful functionality. And again, no authoring tool is needed. Basically, you don't need Revit to do that. And now let's move to the another communication, which is communication between the teams, because we were talking so far about, in fact, one team of architects. So this was architect number 1 and architect number 2. And then there was admin or maybe some chief engineer who was looking what has been done as a job. But what we have as another part of BIM assisted design is a module for design collaboration, where we can really coordinate 3D models. And let's have a look what we can do. Let's imagine that we have 3 different groups, teams, architecture, structure, and MEP. And as you already saw, they are creating their own version. So they are working as a team within the team. So they are creating versions, they are publishing it to make it available with BIM docs. This you already saw. But at one point, what they can do, they can ask for publishing, basically to make their work available for other teams. So which means that, for example, architects, they can ask, I'm used to say responsible person, but whoever is the responsible person, it's from the technical perspective, it's only the person who has the access for the permission possibility to share the data. And let's imagine that this is the chief engineer, so he can basically he can publish the data for other teams, and this is already like a time stamp, you know. So you can see that designer, that is architects, they are creating a model in some this time, and another revision at a time, and another revision at a time, and then they can use the revisions of other people. And again, these revisions has to be approved by these responsible people that the team can use it. So basically, this is the very different to what you can use in, for example, a central model, or what you can see in Revit server, because here is another layer of control, which is really enable controlled work sharing, and this is very important. And now you can imagine that now this job, what is done in this part, is work in progress, and then it can be published, and then can be shared. So basically, there are different stages as defined in ISO 1192. So let's imagine that architect number 2 is going to design collaboration, which is this module which I was just describing. And now this module is enabling basically viewing the data again in cloud. No Revit is needed. So and we are using a very similar functionality which is available in Docs. But here is the one difference, because now what this guy can do, he can still decide which sets will be shared with other stakeholders. And now I can share it, which means that you didn't see it, but this guy didn't have rights to share it because he doesn't have the rights to do this. So if he wants to be able to share the data with other team members, of course, he has the permission. And you can see that he doesn't have it here. So he has only view and edit. So he can work with this in Revit file, as a Revit file in Revit, but he is not able to share it. So this can be done only by architect number 1. So basically, architect number 1, now what he can do is, he can, of course, compare the data, view it, and then after making decision, yes, that data can be shared with other stakeholders. So he can go and he can create a package, which is here, and he can make some description and so on and so forth. By the way, this icon is saying that, okay, it has not been shared yet. You can add, as I said, the description. And then he can start to share it. Yeah, so you can see that the button share is available for him because he has the permissions to do that. And let's do this. So still, you can define the package name, first version, and so whatever you want to add, it's really up to user who has the permissions to do that. And it's shared. So you can see that the icon has been changed. Yeah. So, and let's imagine it's a MEP engineer. So MEP engineer will start to collaborate. So before that, of course, he has to create his own Revit file. He has to publish it to the cloud, initiate the collaboration. This is the very same as it was before. But now he can see that architects has already shared something, but he didn't consume it. So, but again, this is the responsible person for mechanical engineer, so he has the rights to view it and to say, okay, I want to consume it. I want to consume these models. And by the way, in the meantime, also structural engineers, they edit some data. So just he can do the same. So, and of course, he can view the data from a different perspective as an architect or structural engineer or MEP engineer. And again, he can consume it. So here is example what can be done. And by the way, here very important note is, here you can work with IFC file as well. So it doesn't have to be necessarily Revit file, but what you can do, you can work with IFC file as well. And now he will add to his model, he will insert what has been done by architects, for example, and also what has been done by structural engineers. So he is adding the file which has been published, which has been approved, basically shared and then consumed, so he can add it to his model. And obviously, then he can start to make his design, you know, so he can start to create his HVAC using standard Revit functionality. So adding more and more information, obviously. And at one point of time, he can synchronize with Central, as you already saw it from the architect's perspective. Of course, he can define what will be published, and then he can publish it for the rest of the team. So as soon as it's published, so it's viewable in BIM Assisted Docs. And you can see what he has created, of course, as a sheet. So it has been published as well. No sections have been published at this point. And now he can go to design collaboration. And now he can say that this can be shared with other stakeholders, with other teams. And again, he can open this timeline. He can see what has been already shared, what he consumed, and then he can add and share what they did as a team of MEP engineers. And of course, which sets to be shared. So now you can see all three teams, but I said the results of all three teams in one model, in one coordinated model in cloud. And again, name package of name of the package and the description. And now architect number one can come and he can use what has been shared with him. So he can consume it, of course. He has to first say, okay, it can be consumed. Yeah. So you saw it. So basically, he is not able to link this model unless it's consumed, because it's a part of the different team. And then he can go to the architects. He will see what has been consumed from MEP engineer, and he can bring it as a linked model to his Revit file. And again, he can synchronize with Central, basically all the information, and then he can create and publish it. Yep. The latest has been published, so basically all informations are available and can be viewed. So now I will go to the last part of my presentation, and this is the control and the security. And as I said, it can be asked by a customer, can I trust it? Is it really trustful platform and environment? Yes, it is. Because as you already saw, we have a different level of the permissions. We have permissions by member, by role, or the company. Basically, it's fully control access. And by the way, you haven't seen it. You can also define the permissions for issues. Somebody can only create issues, somebody can maybe only view, somebody can view it and create, and so on and so forth. Basically, we have different permissions for different parts of the system. And as far as the security is concerned, so we are certified for different standards. And in fact, all information can be found on our web page. We created also a security white paper. So all information is available www.autodesk.com/trust. And also we are transparent about our services. So you can check what is the current status of the services, if they are running, or if it has been degraded, why it happens. Usually it's part of some maintenance. And it's really, BIM assisted design is really proven solution. It works in 166 countries. We have more than 24,000 projects active. So 140,000, over 140,000 models in cloud. And we are seeing 4 million updates to cloud per month approximately. So just some analytics, how much the solution is used. So it's really proven solution. And I just pick up here one reference from DK Group. So they claim that BIM assisted design brought them the digitize of the project 100%. So basically everything is digitized. And what is really interesting is that they see the time reduced for syncing. So basically, if they were working in the local environment, it was around 3 minutes, while in cloud it's around 30 seconds. And of course, because working with up-to-date data, anytime, anywhere, they reduce rework time by 83%. And what are the benefits? So you can have really access the data anytime, anywhere from within Revit, but not only from within Revit, but also using BIM assisted docs. Everything is stored in cloud, so it's one single source of truth, which is trackable. You have really control work sharing. So you see that we added another layer of the control of the over the sharing and consuming models. And it really enables much more efficient collaboration based on really data in cloud, and you can be sitting anywhere. And not, it's what is really important also that we are reducing the cost of servers and IT setup. Whoever tried to set up Revit server, you know, it's not easy job. So here it's really question of several clicks and you are done. It's really prepared for sharing. And really we are reducing time, or we are helping to reduce rework time with different projects. And what you can offer as an additional benefit is that other stakeholders can really access the files at different stages of the process without need to install anything, and they can really contribute to the model. They can make markups, issues, and so on and so forth. And next steps, please go and try BIM assisted design, because we are offering extended access program till end of May. So with that, thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you really good luck and really enjoy the benefits of BIM assisted design. Thank you very much. Have a good day, good afternoon, bye.